Join the Our Game Supporters Club at Patreon for €5 per month to get audio podcasts of the Hurling and Football Show and much more exclusive material. Comment in from Jonathan Davey. This is a good one, I like it. Very thoughtful of the Tip lads for their fellow compatriot to coordinate their departures to coincide with each new episode of the show. Major talking points now sorted. So yeah, as everyone knows who watched the show last week, Brendan Maher announced his retirement in the morning just before the show, which teed us up lovely. To talk all about him. And then now Liam Sheedy is gone. Two tenures of 3 years with Tipperary, and All-Ireland returned in each of them. Michael Verney, what are your initial thoughts of Liam Sheedy stepping down after 3 seasons?
Did we know? That is the big question. Did the boys coordinate, or did we know? Looking back on Liam Sheedy's tenure, obviously, I'd say probably he obviously wanted to win an All-Ireland in his second tenure. If anything, it came a lot quicker than probably we thought. I didn't think it would come straight away. Obviously, the first time around, it was the third year until he got there. But like he does leave a massive legacy. I think whatever about this tenure, looking back to the first tenure, like Liam Sheedy has given, Tipperary probably their finest hour. Like, does anything give a Tip person more satisfaction than beating Kilkenny in an All-Ireland final and stopping Kilkenny going for 5 in a row? It's never been done. And because of what Liam Sheedy's squad did in 2010, it had never been done at the time, and it still has never been done. And I suppose to beat Kilkenny so convincingly in the 19 final, I think it was 14 points in the wind-up. He's definitely had one up probably on Kilkenny over the last couple of times, last 2 times they've met in All-Ireland finals, definitely. I suppose the last 2 years are probably somewhat disappointing. Just the fact that they were beaten in All-Ireland quarterfinals in both years. The Galway one probably comes with a bit of caveat of Cottle Barrett getting sent off. But the shift or move towards younger players that we thought would come maybe didn't come. Definitely hasn't come as quickly as we thought. And it's, if anything, it's only filtering through now at the end of the third year. So whoever takes over has probably got a bit of work to do in that regard. But he came in to win an All-Ireland within his 3 years. Everyone thought Galway and Limerick were probably going to dominate during that time. And Limerick have dominated, to be fair. But Tip did what they had to do. Limerick beat them convincingly, obviously, in the Munster final, but they still went on and took care of their side of business and won in All-Ireland, as painful as it is for me to say. So you can't argue with that. He's won an All-Ireland in each, he's won 2 All-Irelands out of 6 years he's been there. What is it? A league title, a Munster title, beaten All-Ireland finalists, All-Ireland champions, beaten Munster finalists, All-Ireland champions, 2 All-Ireland quarterfinals. Probably just for it to end maybe with that kind of those 2 disappointments is I'm sure very disappointing from his point of view, but definitely can't take away from his legacy.
No, definitely. I mean, Tipperary were going nowhere when he took over the team in 2007. I mean, there's been a couple of disastrous seasons under Michael Babs Keaton, who came back and, the second time just didn't go the right way. I mean, they say you shouldn't come back. And then maybe the latter end of Liam Sheedy's tenure, the last year and a half, had a lot of young players been brought through and given the game time, I think everyone would say whether you win or lose, that's fair enough. So that's probably the only blot on the copybook from that point of view. And that's something, look, we talked about it all last year and all again this season. So maybe that's always why it's so fresh in my mind. But that's not to take away from the great days that he's given Tipperary. I mean, some of the most thrilling days that a Tipperary supporter, and I'll put my Tipperary supporter hat on for a moment. I'm sure plenty of the viewers would.
When do you take it off?
Well, there you go. That's precisely the point. I was trying to get there before you did, but you caught me out again, Michael Vernon. But like the 2009, I mean, that league final in Thurles was one of the greatest games I think anyone had ever seen up to that point. That was unbelievable. Kilkenny won that in extra time. Then the All-Ireland final itself that day. That was the day before I emigrated. So, I mean, I was gone for a year and then I was back the day before the All-Ireland final from immigration to Canada.
Some would say you emigrated as a result of the consequences of the result of that day.
I came back because I knew things were going to go.
Yeah, you knew the tide had turned.
Yeah, I know. And then, 2010, that All-Ireland final was absolutely spectacular, raucous atmosphere. Tipperary hurling the type of hurling that everyone in the county wanted them to do. Then, obviously, look, he left and there was a dip. And those 2 things, they weren't mutually exclusive. It was directly linked. So everybody in the county bemoaned the fact that he stepped away from the job, and Tipperary didn't build on what was considered the golden generation, didn't go and win an All-Ireland until 2016, which for the group of players there, you know, there'd been monster success. They'd always been challenging, getting to the latter stages of the championship for the most part. But, you know, with that group of players, you need to be winning All-Irelands. And then, you know, it comes back 2019, getting absolutely spanked by Limerick in the Munster final was, you know, that was a very dark day for this group of players, and didn't meet Limerick again that season, but went on to win the All-Ireland title by that gutsy display against Wexford. And
Brilliant.
Look, we've talked about that many times, but that was an unbelievable day to be a Tipperary supporter at Croke Park. Like, absolutely fantastic. Team left it all out in the field, 5 points behind, a man down, came out, and to win in those circumstances, that is a really high point in Liam Sheedy's tenure. And in the All-Ireland final, to win by 14 points against Kilkenny, you know, I mean, it doesn't get much sweeter for a Tipperary supporter than that. Now, the last 2 seasons, yeah, I said it and we talked about it a lot, but there are an awful lot of positives there. So I don't want it to come across as if I don't look at it and think, Jesus, fair play at the same time.
Yeah, the day against Wexford was the day Joe O'Connor ran into Sheedy, and Sheedy was snarling like Sheedy knocked Joe O'Connor, despite the fact that Sheedy was caught unawares by his shoulder. He was that fired up that he knocked him, and I think like that's definitely one thing he definitely, you know, continuously brought to the table was that passion. You know, Jesus, like he was like a man possessed on the sideline at different stages. And yeah, while it's funny in 2010. He left when he was still wanted, whereas now I think he's picked the right time to leave, to be honest with you, because I do think things probably do need to go in a different direction, as we've probably said. But like can't take away like the impact that he's had. He's had a massive impact. And Shane, to be honest with you, Liam Sheedy has cemented probably Callan, Noel McGrath, Paddy Matter, you know, Bonner Matter. He has cemented their legacy as greats by coming back to help them win that third one. Like, if they'd only won 2, Tip would have been seen as underachievers. I don't think they could be seen as underachievers now. I really don't. And that has helped cement his legacy, obviously, but the legacy of Brendan Matter as well, obviously. The legacy of those players that the most of which he brought through in 2010 or even in 2008, he has helped to cement their legacies as, you know, some of the greats Tipperary have ever seen and some of the greatest of the modern era as well.
Yeah, and look, it's obviously the week of the All-Ireland final, so we will be talking Cork Limerick, but, you know, when there's breaking news like this, we can't not focus on it. Loads of comments are flying in. We'll get to those in a minute. But just a little Q&A. It was a bit of fun, actually, with Liam Sheedy that it did in 2019. So I'm just going to play a little bit of that. I'll bring it up on screen and just enjoy this, because it is a bit of crack. I was thinking I'd read out a few of the questions to you again, and then I'll give you your answers. So, who's your toughest opponent?
22 years ago.
Yeah.
Justin Campbell.
You had him as one, and you had John Lahey in as well.
Oh,
So, yeah, you're on the ball there. Favourite ground?
Thurles.
You had the Gaelic grounds down.
Gaelic grounds, oh yeah.
Yeah,
One
yeah.
or 2 titles in there, yeah.
Yeah. Your hobbies?
22 years ago. Was golfing there.
Yeah, it was indeed. To clarify, I'd asked him what did he answer in 1997 in a Q&A, and I asked him the same questions again. You had a Kilkenny man.
22 years ago.
Could only be one.
DJ.
Yeah, you had DJ, you had Larry O'Gorman and Kieran Carey. The high point of your career at that stage. So this was September 97.
September 97. I played in that Ireland final 97. Oh, that was before the match. I'd say winning the 21 and the intermediate in 1990.
You gave it to the All-Ireland semi-final that year.
Oh, yeah. Again,
yeah. Biggest disappointment?
Biggest disappointment. I don't linger with disappointments. What did I write down?
You had losing this is 10 years on from the 87 minor final.
Yeah,
Isn't that tough? Yeah. Ways of improving the game?
I can't remember shit. That's 22 years ago, man.
Yeah, let the game flow. I'll skip on to that one. Person you'd like to meet the most?
Last.
I'm training so often at the moment. It'd be nice to meet my wife. Favorite personal saying or term of abuse?
No, you had me again.
Mark up centre field or how's she cutting? Favorite music?
Favorite music. Pop music is happy enough. Maybe that's changed with the kids now. You see, it's
Yeah.
been Southwest land the whole time with the girls.
You went to all types. Favorite film?
22 years ago. God, no idea.
Yeah, you went with Braveheart. Ideal date.
Oh.
This is a good one now.
Julia Roberts.
You went with Demi Moore. And how would you like to be remembered?
Sound fella.
Sound fella. You went with a very friendly person that gets on
There
well
you
with her,
go.
so similar enough. Another thing that came across was you had first called onto the tip panel 89, turned into, I suppose,
was.
1990. Then you had 7 years away from the panel as well. Came back, made the debut at maybe 27 years of age.
26, yeah.
And such a strange place to do it, an All-Ireland quarter-final in
Yeah.
Clonus against
right,
Down as
yeah.
well. What are your memories of that?
Yeah, there was a bit of footage on there one night in the Sunday game there lately. I was a bit wild in the pull. I was getting a bit of slagging over it. But yeah, no, because I was hurling in the National League that year. I actually went over my ankle. I was out the back with the two nephews and jumped off the ditch and done the ligaments in the ankle.
Lovely.
Pucking the ball. So yeah, to get back in, obviously we lost the Munster final, so I got back in for the All-Ireland quarter final, and obviously then I still remember the All-Ireland semi-final against Wexford. It's probably a big day for me. I hadn't been involved in a big match like that for a number of years. And I remember Lynn Gaynor running in across the field and he telling me to get my head up and come on, like that, because it was just, I was somewhat overawed by the occasion. But you know, once I poked the ball and found my feet, then you know, I actually didn't want the game to end near the finish because I had found my flow. So yeah, look, it was for me, even though we lost there in '97, because of the journey I had been on and not being involved for the previous 7 years, you know, it nearly felt like I had accomplished something, even though we hadn't really accomplished anything. So
can I just ask you about the final whistle of the Wexford game? Like, the footage came on and you looked like a man who was trying to contain himself. But then another bit of footage came out later, and I think it was Wexford's Joe O'Connor had bundled into you.
Yeah.
You looked like a man ready for the next ball.
Yeah.
What was that moment like?
No, like I was following the ball, so like as the ball was moving down the line, I was watching the ball. But Joe came out and just you know, bounced. His momentum when he was trying to tackle Shane, he just carried him over the line. So look, in fairness, it was just you know, the last 20 minutes was fairly frantic there, Shane. To be honest with you, I was just thrilled to get over the line. And when you get over the line, there's there's such a buzz of emotion, and like, you know, it meant a lot to us and to the group to go and get into the All-Ireland final, you know.
There is plenty more on that. You can look for that Q&A. So I didn't actually tee it up beforehand, but that was me talking to him in 2019, asking him, does he remember his answers to a Q&A from 1997? So that was a bit of fun.
I'd say he was fit to peel you with a box there at one stage. He must have said 22 years ago about 10 times. It's one of those horribly awkward positions where you're put in and you literally would not have an iota of what you said. If you asked me what I said 2 years ago about something, I wouldn't have a clue. And it just, yeah, I'm surprised he actually didn't get you in a headlock or something at some stage.
Are you suggesting I wronged him? I thought it was a bit of fun.
Yeah, it was a bit of crack for everyone apart from Liam, I'd say.
Okay, I'm going to go through some of the comments here, and people keep getting your questions, answers, whatever you want in here. It wasn't me. The big head on Bernie. Yeah, that hair is.
Cheers, lads. The abuse I get over having some curls on the top of my head, for Christ's sake. Now, to be fair, I was out late enough last night celebrating the under-20s, and I'm a bit shook this morning, as you can hear in the voice. So the hair didn't get much treatment now this morning, but sure, listen, you'll give me a pass this Monday of all Mondays. Yeah,
just a reminder, we're brought to you by orgaretro.com. Get 15% off this. Maybe a Tyrone jersey, maybe you've club colours like this and you fancy it. Maybe that Mayo jersey there. Go to orgaretro.com, put in the promo code OurGame, 15% off. Dennis Noonan, can you ask why the tickets for the All-Ireland are distributed to all counties? Absolute joke. After JP generously gave every county board 100k, they should have sent them all back to Limerick, says Dennis Noonan. So, yeah, I mean, you would hope that as many tickets as possible do end up in the right hands. Patrick Hickey, best of luck to Liam, great hurling man. Had pleasure chatting to him after the 2013 All-Ireland. Dean Griffin, who did Brendan Maher tell he was retiring? Liam Cahill or Liam Sheedy? Ooh, cheeky. Portroe Gill, great. Another Tipperary love-in. Are we going to have to put up with this after all the retirements? Who inside Tip do you think has the best chance to get the job? Tipperary love-in, says JS2000 ? We're the most disliked county in the country. Is that true?
I'd say there's red men beside you in Munster that aren't too far behind, I'd say.
Yeah?
I'd say, you know, like Cork, it tends to generate a dislike from others as well, just because of, you know, it's that Corkness, it's that confidence bordering on arrogance. And, you know, like, I never forget when Offaly played them in 99 and 2000. It's just like, it's great to be playing against them, but to lose to them is sick enough. I would say it's similar. I work further away from Cork, so I don't get that as much. But Tip would definitely be disliked by most, to be fair. I was chatting to someone yesterday, actually, and they were saying about, Mayo, and people were saying, 31 counties were shouting for Mayo the other night, and definitely not. There was probably 30 counties, but there's no way the Galwegians were shouting for Mayo, because there's a hatred there between the two of them. And they basically said that to me. They're from Galway. But it's the same, like, it's never 31 counties against Dublin or 31 counties against Tip. There's always like a few other counties that hate counties equally as much. Like,
well, I wonder would Dublin be shouting for Mayo in the All-Ireland final? The way that finished off, the sort of spite, the bitterness, few of the dubs sent to the line, finally been taken down by Mayo. I can't imagine Dublin would be cheering for them.
No, I wouldn't think so. No, Summer. Wouldn't think so. No.
Even against, if it's Kerry. Asher, look at. We'll move on to that. We might touch on that at another point. Awful news for Waterford, says Derek Halpin, which of course is leading us to the next point. Will Liam Cahill be the next man in for Tipperary? I mean, I was talking to WLRFM earlier today, and they said they've just been getting floods of messages in that they're all fairly panicked that Liam Cahill is going to leave. I mean, we've nothing official, but it just feels like this is sort of inevitable.
Yeah, like I kind of said it last week, and somebody said it was being disingenuous to Waterford. It definitely wasn't, but Liam Cahill is in management to manage the Tipperary senior hurlers. That is his sole goal, I would say, is to manage the Tipperary senior hurlers to an All-Ireland senior title. The opportunity, like his term in Waterford is finished now. The Tipperary job is free. Basically, Liam's management is gone en masse now. It doesn't look like any of those are going to be considered for the next manager. That was my reading of the situation anyway. So if you're looking at that, then the obvious candidate would have to be Liam Cahill. Particularly like Tip aren't going to look outside. You're going to look inside, and who's the outstanding candidate in Tip? You'd have to say it's Liam Cahill. So we kind of teed it up last week. Things can happen this is very, very quickly fast moving situation, and the musical chairs of Liam Sheedy going and potentially Liam Cahill moving and all these different parts moving, and maybe Derek McGrath comes into a situation, maybe Eddie Brennan comes into a situation somewhere else. There's so many moving pieces. It's fascinating really, but I do think Liam Cahill will be the Tipperary manager for 2022.
I could watch you going like this all day. Look, we're going to come on to the managerial merry-go-round in a little bit of time. First off, just a reminder that if you do want to get the audio podcast of this, go to patreon.com/our game. Very good way to support the channel. We're always trying to take it on to the next level, and your support helps too. And also, if you're watching on YouTube, please do subscribe to the channel and hit the notifications, like, comment, share, all that sort of stuff. It does help build the channel. The old algorithm with YouTube, it's always helped with that sort of stuff. So please do that. We definitely appreciate it. A few more comments coming in here. Davy Fitz would be a good experienced manager for Tipperary. He's a bit older and wiser now. Plus, he'd love to sock it to the Clare County Board.
Would he though? Clock it to this, like his father is the secretary of the Clare County Board.
Well, he'd like to sow it into some people in Clare. I think if you have any sort of issue with where you're from and people, like if you've been one place and things have gone a little bit sour, I mean, from a personal point of view, do you want to sow it into some people who you feel have got it in for you?
Maybe so, but like
yeah.
I
Not
don't
the county.
think,
He doesn't want to sow it into the players. He doesn't want to sow it into the supporters of the county. He wants to sow it into specific people. I would imagine. We're guessing.
It's going to be interesting to see if he comes into the equation here somewhere. Like it's just like when you don't have a club manager, around October or November. There's all of a sudden you start hearing that lads are interested in certain lads almost start putting out feelers that another club is interested in them. So all of a sudden, if we don't have a manager now, we hear, the Saint is going to whoever, and then we're like, geez, we may ring him quickly and see whether he's, you know what I mean? There's so many moving parts here now. It's really, really fascinating. I'd be surprised if Davy doesn't come into the mix somewhere though. In Tipperary, no way, not a chance.
Yeah, Tipperary would pull out of the hurling championship before they'd have Davy Fitz as manager.
Before they'd have an outside manager as over them, really.
Well, whatever chance of an outside manager, it's not going to be any of that Clare generation. We'll put it that way. Definitely Tip benefited from the so-called Sheedy factor, says Portroe Gill. Man oozes passion and class and clearly rubbed off on the players. certainly did.
Yeah.
Isaac Dolan is Sheedy Tipperary's greatest ever manager. Like Bob Keaton, if he didn't come back the second time and things didn't go a little bit south, he had done such brilliant work the first time around, winning the All-Ireland, setting up the supporters club, doing an awful lot of brilliant stuff there. Then, it was management committees when you go way back in the day. So up until like late 70s, 80s and all that kind of stuff, it was management committees. So you don't really pick a manager. This is why you only go back as far as the likes of Kevin Heffernan and Mick O'Dwyer and these sort of figures. But he's certainly up there. I mean, in recent times, Tipperary probably haven't won as many All-Irelands as they should have. So it's just purely looking at All-Ireland titles won. It's Babs Keaton, it's Nicky English, and it's Liam Sheedy in more recent times. Now, maybe someone would have another comment or thought on that. But I think the fact that Sheedy won All-Irelands in 2 separate eras when he came in, it's probably going to be him. Then again, like, Babs ended such a long famine when he came in, so you could have look at both ways. Any thoughts?
Sheedy took down the greatest team of all time.
Yeah, and I think that definitely is a deciding factor, or it's up there. But then again, like Babs, Tipperary had been under Cork's thumb for so long, and just couldn't get out of Munster for so long. So there is that too.
I think the minor goes in on Sheedy's win column as well. Like the fact that he's actually brought through so many of these players the whole way through, and he's brought through players at minor level who he's now like left with them at senior level almost, if you know what I mean. They're actually exiting at the same time. Their careers have crossed paths for that long, like.
Yeah, fair point. And more comments coming in. Richard Good, Davy Fitz would fit into Tipperary like a glove. I wonder are some of these a little bit tongue-in-cheek? I'd imagine a few of them are. Dermot Coyne, the 2009 All-Ireland final was the best final. Tipperary were robbed, but unbelievable intensity and physicality.
I'd go along with that. The 2010 final is often thrown up as the better game. 2009 to me had it all, and even the drama of the fact that it probably shouldn't have been a penalty, and then all of a sudden Tip look like they're gonna do it and bring down Kilkenny, and then all of a sudden 60 seconds later Shefflin has a penalty stuck and Martin Comfort comes in and there's Tip bodies flailing. That was an unbelievable game, and I just think that was such an arm wrestle and a struggle. I loved that game more so than, I know it was raining in 10, but it seemed a lot more open maybe,
Yeah. So Will says the legend of that Offaly side who stopped Kerry 5 in a row has only grown as the years passed. Sheedy stopping that Kilkenny side but only get better as the year passed. And actually so will what Mayo did on Saturday evening. I was at it, and I have to say, like, I always talk about the Kilkenny Tipperary atmospheres for those All-Ireland finals. They were just unbelievable, especially 9, 10 and 11. 9 and 10 I think especially. But my God, the atmosphere when Mayo and Dublin play, even though it was far short of a capacity crowd at Croke Park there the other night, I actually couldn't sleep after Mayo Dublin the other night. I genuinely couldn't. And I woke up at 6 a.m. on Sunday morning, and I had to get up and watch the game again because I needed to watch it again to somehow get it out of my system. And I think some of these games can have that effect on you.
Imagine to say that 2 counties or a game can have that effect on you when you really, like, I know you're living in Dublin or whatever, but you've no affiliation with either county. That's like I was saying to someone last night, Ireland has gotten so many things wrong over the years. And I know we give out with the GA, but we've gotten the GA so right. Like, it's amazing. I know we give out about this and that, and they should be doing this and that. But to have what we have, like, and to, for the drama we got on Saturday that people are still going to be talking about now and we'll be talking about for the next couple of weeks. Then you have, like, the Offaly under 20s winning, our first All-Ireland of any description for 23 years. Then you have the Meath ladies, like, with this massive smash and grab in the last 5 minutes. Like, there's so many things wrong. Like, look at how we're dealing with, COVID-19 and everything. But we've gotten the GA so right. It just, the connection with people and how much it means to be. The fact that you can't sleep over a game that you have no affiliation to, like, that's incredible. And I was the same. I couldn't sleep last night. I know I obviously have skin in the game with Offaly, but it's just phenomenal, really, what the GA is and what it does to people.
Yeah, my God, like, I think it was the energy in the stadium, and I'd love to know what people think. Do they kind of do they have this also? But the energy, and I did that full-time reaction video of Mayo beating Dublin, and the energy around me was just incredible. And I'm there screaming down the microphone, and I just clicked live, and I don't even know what I'm about to say, and you just blurt it all out. But you're just, oh, you're just alive after it. Like, it really is unbelievable stuff. And it's the sort of thing that brings you back for more. Like, you're not going to be turning your back on the GA when it's doing that to you. It's obviously something so special. Mark Corcoran says something special here. Vernie looks like a black rooster. You know, don't know why you look like a black rooster, but there you go. Anyway, we'll come on to the next comment. If Shane could find a positive tip angle around the fall of Kabul, he would definitely bring it up. Yeah,
that's a fair point.
Yeah. Han Verney, where's the Offaly jersey? Unbelievable. Have a friend from Sligo. He hates Mayo. The Rossies also can't stand Mayo.
The whole iconic by the sounds of things.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, no Offaly jersey. I would gladly be wearing it. The closest I could get was Mayo, which is my own club colours in Burr this morning. But yeah, to be honest, there was we were in town last night. There was a lot of lads with Offaly jerseys on, and there was a lot of boys came home without jerseys on their back at all. So they're probably lying on the outside in a pub somewhere.
Oh, that'd be ye Offaly Stooks to a T. Darren Nestor, Eddie Brennan, and Henry for tip management. Do you know what? Is that more likely than Davy Fitz being tip manager? I think it might actually.
Oh, jeez, I tell you, it's a coin toss.
Again, Tipperary would pull out of the championship. As a tip man, Shane, who do you want to see win on Sunday? Limerick to continue their takeover, or Cork to launch a new dynasty? It's a tough spot to be in as a Tipperary man. We'll definitely come to that later on the show. And we also have a comment that Aidan O'Shea should be suspended for the final. He was a disgrace, and it wasn't me. Queries, what did he do, Paddy? Paddy's actually my cousin, by the way. He came onto the pitch and caused trouble. We'll come to that a little bit later on. We'll talk about the whole Aidan O'Shea situation in a wider GA context, because players coming on the field, all that kind of stuff. We definitely want to touch on that. Darren Gleeson will certainly be in this discussion for Tipperary, as may Dara Egan. And let's see, David.
Well, if the tip management have kind of resigned en masse, that kind of suggested to me that they were all walking away at the moment, and that none of them will be back or looking for the manager job. That's what it suggested to me now, to be honest with you.
Yeah, Davy Cody and Shane Lowry for the tip triple threat management, says Mark Corcoran. Brendan Cummins, maybe he'll certainly be in the discussion. Why do you believe that Liam Cahill will just down tools in Watford and move to tip? He is building in Watford, says Thomas Mullen. That's absolutely true, but there is that lure of home, and it's just a feeling that it's kind of moving this way. You know, he was a bit non-committal after getting knocked out by Limerick in the All-Ireland semi-final. That's not to say that he won't. I mean, this could happen. He could stay, but it's just, you don't know how long the managerial post will be there for. Let's say one of those names that was just discussed, Gleeson, Egan, Cummins, comes in and has a really good tenure or starts well and things look like they're going in the right direction, and maybe Liam Cahill stays with Watford next year and then he decides to finish up after a third year. Maybe the job just isn't there, and maybe it won't be there for 2 or 3 years, and then all of a sudden maybe one of the players that has retired or will retire in the next year or two has done well with a club, and then they've got a huge name, and all of a sudden they're kind of pushed into the conversation. So you can't necessarily say it'll be there again in the future if he doesn't take it now, which is kind of why it feels like, you know, like there are sliding doors moments, and this is it. Like if he's approached, which you assume he will be, that he wouldn't say no.
No, I'd be the same. Yeah, it's that idea of, I think that would be the job that he set out to do at the very start of it all. Now he's made massive progress in Waterford, and as you say, there's definitely worry down there because they could be left in the lurch. I do think all of this will be sorted quite quickly, and I think because I don't think, like, if he does leave Waterford, I think he'll want to leave them with loads of time to get a new manager and get everything in place. Listen, it's going to be really interesting if Liam Cahill does come to tip. Obviously, like, Mikey Beavens is a massive part of that, and obviously a massive tomb man. So, like, yeah, I think it'll definitely be obviously a double act if he does go. But I think it'll play out quite quickly. I do think it'll play out quite quickly over the next couple of weeks.
And I think if there are going to be any further retirements, I think that might play out quickly too. Join the Our Game Supporters Club at Patreon for €5 per month to get audio podcasts of the Hurling and Football Show and much more exclusive material.